Thank you so much for staying with Monday Special, where we'll dive right into our panel discussion. I have a lot of your views on SMS, and I'll be reading them throughout the discussion as well. If there's any questions that you have as well, send them to 22422, leaving your name and location, and tweet us using the hashtag MondaySpecialKE. Let me introduce you to our panelists. On my left, we have Fernandez Barasa. He is the chairman of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, ISPAC, which is the professional organization that regulates the activities of all certified public accountants in Kenya. And then we have Alphonse Okoth. He's a parent whose child is currently at home waiting out the strike as well. His daughter also happens to be a candidate, so he'll tell us a little bit about how it's affecting him as a parent. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have a third panelist. She will not be able to make it this evening, so we'll be with the two gentlemen. Thank you both so much for coming tonight. First off, Fernandez, let me start with you, and just your thoughts on what President Uhuru Kenyatta said yesterday.
Well, first and foremost, I think what the president was trying to do is just to put the reality check. When you look at his speech, he was trying to highlight the current status of where we are, and then bringing out the economic implication of this decision.
Do you think he did a good job of that? Do you think there was enough clarity?
I think for me he did well. Yeah.
Okay, what would you say were some of the things he said that you're a bit skeptical about, or that made you say, I'm not quite sure that makes sense given this situation?
Well, what I can say is when you look at the numbers he was talking about, first and foremost he brought out the impact of this award, but by starting to highlight the current situation of the wage bill being 52%. Now when you look at a wage bill of 52% and you are a middle economy, this is slightly above the global rate of 35%. Number two, he brought out the implication in terms of addressing the issues of the 50 and 60% by raising taxes, by suspending development expenditure, by, of course, increasing the cost of living. So when you look at those quick decisions, which I know teachers want to see, they're actually counterproductive in the long run.
They are counterproductive in the long run.
Absolutely. So in my view, coming from the finance background at ISPAC, I think the president did very well yesterday.
Okay,
yeah.
In your view. Of course, I'll be asking you a little bit more about what you think, because as much as, you know, he's the president, he gave his views, he was giving his stance on this. I'm still curious to know what your thoughts are on the way forward, given your background in finance. And maybe coming to you, Alphonse, as a parent, first of all, how many children do you have who are affected by the strike?
Right now, I have 3 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 girl and 2 boys.
So right now they're at home?
They're at home.
What do you first of all feel about what President Uhuru Kenyatta said yesterday before we go into your own situation? What are your thoughts?
Well, I know as a president he just wanted to, you know, come out and defend this position. But as a parent, I'm just worried about what impact it will have on the children if this is the leader of the country, of the nation, the one that we look up to, and, you know, define what is perceived to be a genuine court order. What would the children see that we can be directed to do something and we just ignore? So that is my only worry. Defiance.
What have the last few weeks been like for you as a parent who's had to watch this stalemate go back and forth as your children's education is affected? What's that been like for you over the last few weeks?
Hectic and to some extent traumatizing. We have not planned for this. We expected our children to be at school right now. They are back at home with a lot of time in their hands. Whatever they do, because we must leave very early for our work so that we can sustain them. Whatever they do when we leave them at home, we are not certain of that. They go mingle, some of them especially in the village areas. Where do they spend their time? In the markets. We don't know who they are socializing with and the impact this will have on them, especially on their education. So I would like to look at this issue on 3 prongs. First, the social aspect of it. Secondly, the economic, a bit of economic aspect of it. And thirdly, the political aspect of it. Because all these factors will eventually contribute to shape this child who is now at home.
How old are they?
One is 15 years old. This is the one in class 8. Another one is 14. This one just joined class 1. Maybe I need to clarify why the 15. this is a lady who had some difficulty, in learning, starting to go to school.
Yeah.
So she had to take a little bit of time.
Okay.
This boy of 14 years old just went well. So he's in Form 1, he's at home.
Okay.
The lady is in Class 8, is at home.
All right. And you said you have a third one.
A third one is still a young boy.
Still young. Because the reason I'm asking you that is to find out how much do they understand about the situation, and what are they telling you? What are they saying to you as their father? What kind of thoughts are they sharing with you?
Well, the most worried one is the girl in Class 8. Actually, she just keeps on telling me, now, what do I do? She's trying to, make the best of this by revising.
Yeah.
And she tells me now, what do I do? I need Mr. So-and-so to explain this to me, especially the maths and science part of it. But she cannot get any answer. So, and then she finds herself being lured into other, activities by her peers, because she knows very well that no one is at home to keenly monitor her. She's tempted to join others to playing, and this will, derail her dream. This boy, well, he doesn't make much sense of it. He just knows that, okay, this is a prolonged holiday.
Yeah.
So when the school resumes, he will just
go back. All right.
But the most worried is the girl.
All right, I'll come back to you in just a few moments. Do you think there's an option, Fernandez, that the government can pursue to end the stalemate?
Yes, I believe there's an option. And first and foremost, I just want to highlight on the role of existing institutions. First and foremost, we have the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Now, when you look at this body that was created by the Constitution, which Kenyans overwhelmingly voted for, I think it is one of the solutions which I believe, if the teachers, union leaders, have to engage SRC, because as per the Constitution at the moment, salaries of public servants are supposed to be harmonized by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. And this, of course, is going to be pegged on productivity, cost of living, and financial sustainability. So it's important at least to appreciate the existing institutions that deal with issues of pay.
Yeah.
And for me, looking at this sort of what has been happening, I think NAT has also not given SRC an opportunity.
Why do you
to
say
harmonize.
that?
Why I say that is because I've been following keenly the discussions between NAT and even SRC. At one point, the NAT leadership actually referred to SRC as strangers on the negotiating table. So for me, if you want justice, you come with clean hands. I think it's important for the NAT leadership to give SRC an opportunity. I know at the moment SRC is trying to review the salaries and also doing a job evaluation process across the public service. So teachers being public servants, it is important at least to give SRC an opportunity to harmonize the salaries after doing the job evaluation. They might argue that they have already given them that opportunity. Well, I think it's just good to go to the memory lane because I've been following this because as ISPAC actually protect public interest. And when we have issues like this salaries being prolonged, definitely the public interest is an area of concern. So for me, SRC needs to be given a chance. Number two, when you look at the budgeting cycle in government, of course, most of the issues that have financial implication must be done within a budgeting cycle. So we still have an opportunity after SRC and TSC and the NAT leadership meet together. I believe we can have a solution which can be factored in the supplementary budget. Because in government budgeting cycle, we have two opportunities. One is the printed estimates which comes early in the year. Then we have now an opportunity for supplementary budgets, which I believe once the parties have a clear negotiation, definitely we have an opportunity for factoring this in the supplementary budget that comes at the end of the year. What is ISPAC's voice in this whole discussion? I know you've mentioned as a body that's what you regulate. Have you delved into the discussion? Is there a stand you're taking? Is there any advice that you're looking at giving? What's your voice in this? I think first and foremost, ISPAC, of course, will want to see the government doing its bit. But in terms of the economic implication, as a body that advises on government policy on financial issues, I think it's important to harmonize the salary so that we don't affect development expenditure. Now, when you look at our budget making process, the budget policy statement was very clear. We want Kenya to be an investment hub. We want to reduce the cost of living. How do you do that? Is by channeling most of your money to development expenditure and not on a recurrent expenditure. Now, if we implement, or the government implements this proposal, definitely what it means is going to affect the development expenditure. There's an option of raising taxes.
Yes.
And this again is going to go against fiscal responsibility in the PFM Act.
I want to ask about the taxes in just a few moments. Alphonse, let me bring you into this. Again, as a parent, are the discussions, in your opinion, a little bit too technical? Are you, as parents, aware of what these numbers mean and how they affect the entire cycle and how they eventually affect the ongoing strike? Are you aware as parents? Do you think you're aware enough of everything that's going on in this situation?
Well, because parents come from diverse backgrounds and professionalism, some might understand. But on average, we as parents, we're just concerned that this is the much that we need to pay as fees. And our children need to be educated. All these issues about figures and numbers
are neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there. What we know is that we were given guideline on school fees. You need to pay X amount by third term, and that's what we paid. Now for our children to come back to us, it's like we are being double taxed. In fact, we are more than being double taxed. We pay for them to stay at school, eat at school, and be taken care of at school for this period of time, and then they are sent back to us. Now, we budgeted that this time, the two children will be at school, eating at school, sleeping at school, being taken care of at school. Now they are back to us. We need to adjust our budget again. You see, it's like paying for one person twice. So for us, these figures, they don't make much sense for us. We're just concerned about the fees and the education of our children.
That said, what do you think can be done to end the stalemate?
Well,
as Alphonse.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't give you pressure to speak on behalf of many parents, but, you know, just it's a very simple, straightforward question. What do you think can be done?
I think this thing is very straightforward. When this whole saga began, the notice was given by school teachers. And at some point, it was stopped due to a court process, which they gave time, and it went full course. And a decision was made. A judgment was pronounced. When now, I mean, the government or the TSC for that matter did not follow or obey the court order, now we are just wondering, as a parent, I bring up my child to obey the rule of law. And I expect that the chief executive of the country of which I am a citizen would lead by example to my child. I am an example at the household level, but he is an example at the national level. So, what does that mean for my child? You see, I'm worried about that. I can simply tell the girl or the boy to do something, and then, given the precedence that has been set by the president, it will be disobeyed. But I wanted also to look especially at the social aspect of it.
Can we get to the social aspect after the break? Because we do need to go into the social implications, how in your view this also affects the quality of education, etc. And of course, getting views from you. I do have some of your text messages. Once we come back, I will share some of your opinions. And remember, you can also tweet us. We'll try and bring up some of those tweets as well as we continue this discussion. 22422 is the number you can text us on, and the hashtag Monday Special KA is what you can use on Twitter. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. You're watching Monday Special, where of course we're talking a little bit more about what's the way forward with the ongoing teacher strike. We have a few tweets that we'd like to bring up for you before we read some of your text messages. Let's see if we can have those. Willie G. Nyaga says, Ababu Namwamba's motion should be adopted to end the stalemate. So that's what he thinks the way forward is. Steve Mopao says, if the government and teachers could put aside their superiority, a solution would be achieved. Okay, and then we have Rono Arab saying the state should obey the court order and end the strike. John Jadi says, we simply cannot afford. We pay tax and yet we don't enjoy the free education for our children. So those are some varied views there on Twitter. And an SMS, you didn't leave your name or location, but you say, pride goes before a fall. The teachers union has displayed despicable arrogance and insensitivity to Kenyans, the parents, and sadly the students. Pray that reason prevails. The president is right. And then we have Eunice Musau in Nairobi, who says that the teachers aren't happy with the current pay from their employer. The most honorable thing they can do is just resign. So those are some views from there. We have a few more, but we'll read them towards the end of the discussion. So you can see varied views coming from there. Just before the break, we talked about some of the social and economic implications, and maybe Fernandez, you can give us some of the economic implications this is likely to have, and then you can weigh in on the social.
Yeah, very well. First and foremost, I want to mention that Kenya is a middle economy. And when you have an economy that is actually sustaining itself on a recurrent budget, it's a big concern. Now, when you look at the current wage bill, which is 10% of GDP, that is not sustainable. Why am I saying that? For you to grow, and maybe just to go back, when you look at the budget policy statement of 2015-16, the government is focusing on development expenditure. And by allocating more money on infrastructure projects, the cost of living, which is now the bigger theme of this year's budget policy statement, is going to come down. Now, even in that circumstance, we are talking about 10% of the wage bill being very high. Now, that is at 52%. If this 50 to 60% was to be implemented, that will push our wage bill to GDP to 10.5%. Now, when you look at the middle-class economies in Africa and even in the world over, the recommended percentage is around 35%. So what I believe is that this increase is going now to take us back in the few steps that we have made in terms of infrastructure development. We are going to cut back.
Okay, so that's just based on the calculations as you put them together.
Yes. Now, when you look at the options available, again, is about taxes. As I said, our expenditure in Kenya, public expenditure, is largely financed by the taxes. In
fact, can I interrupt you? Can I ask you whether you think that the government can raise money for teachers without necessarily raising the level of taxes?
Well, definitely when you look at the taxes, in this year's budget, the cabinet secretary was very particular, because for you to achieve the budget policy statement of reducing the cost of living, they were very clear not to raise taxes. Because you can still do tax reforms. And that's why in this year's budget, the minister emphasized on tax reforms in the income tax, the issues of automation, so that you can address the tax leakages. So you can still raise money without increasing the taxes by addressing the tax reforms in the income tax, the tax reforms and leakages at customs, etc.
Okay, so that's possible. Your thoughts on the social implications that this could have, especially if it stretches out any longer?
Yes, of course. The only worry is that these children now have a lot of time. They might not necessarily put this time that they have into a productive use. Well, they might study when you are around, but when you are not around for those 8 hours, what do they do with that time? Some of them might get tempted to join these social circles where they just roam about, attending these parties or getting that bad influence because there's no adult or no teacher to take care of them. Of course, there's also the security part of it, the social security. When they are at school, they are formed. The teachers get keen attention on them, and having done child psychology, they know how to how to form their brains, to understand the issues at hand. Some of those issues we are not able as parents to articulate as well as the teachers would have done it. Yes, so that's the only word. And as the old saying goes, an adult mind is a devil's workshop. So when these children are adult, what else they can concoct?
Yeah, one doesn't know.
One does.
Yeah, those are some of the social implications. Interesting, during the break, you were saying your children are also affected by the ongoing strike, but you seem pretty composed about it. I'm just curious as to why.
First and foremost, of course, there's what you call the reality check.
Yeah.
Now, the solutions we're trying to offer on the table are aimed at ending this strike. When I talk as a parent, definitely I want the teachers to be in class like tomorrow. But we just need to have the real facts brought on the table. So, as a parent, I definitely request the union to consider the plight of 12 million people who are out there. But before I go into that, I just wanted to emphasize one thing about tax. When you look at the budget-making process, what the government has put in place for this financial year to raise 1.3 trillion Kenya shillings from taxes is largely on tax reforms. Now, the allocation on the wage bill at the moment is around 630 billion Kenya shillings, which is 52%. So, the most realistic thing the government can do, which I believe is the most feasible thing to do, is to negotiate with teachers, and this can be implemented in the next financial year.
Negotiate with teachers?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because budgeting process is structured. When you look at the Public Finance Management Act, it is very clear how you raise revenue. You can't raise revenue midstream.
Yeah.
So discussions can go on. SRC can come on board. But as this is happening, I think the children need to be in school, because we cannot have the fights affecting 12 million kids out there.
Do you agree that the government claims that this will lead to demands of wage increase from civil and public servants as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, if that is awarded, one thing I can tell you, lecturers will be out there, other public servants, doctors will be out there. So it's an issue that has to be dealt with a lot of sincerity.
And delicacy.
Absolutely.
There's a few people who want to challenge you, and I'm just reading their text messages, which is just their opinion. But someone is saying to Baraza, SRC says they've already harmonized the salary. Which time or allowance do you want teachers to give SRC? Be fair. There was no SRC to be consulted when MPs and MCAs wanted an increment when it was to be done. Yeah. And so they're telling you to be fair. That's someone who's saying that. And then Stanley Kiplagat from Bomet says, what Baraza is saying has been overtaken by events. The industrial court, according to him, has made a finding that SRC is, in his words, impotent. Does Baraza appreciate this? So those are some of the views coming in from the public, perhaps questioning your own stance regarding the ongoing strike and your, what appears to be your support in favor of the government's stance. I don't know how you want to respond to that.
Well, I think first and foremost, what the public must understand is SRC has a mandate. And when you look at the harmonization process, I mentioned 3 issues. Number one, it is based on productivity. I don't think whether productivity at the moment has already been dealt with, because we don't have a national productivity policy to set specific sector indicators. Number 2 is on the cost of living, right? And then the salary increases should be financially sustainable. Now, when you look at what our good teachers are asking for, some of the issues about sustainability, I think it is just good sometimes to talk the truth. There is no point of saying you will increase by 50 to 60% and it's not sustainable. That is my point. Yeah.
All right. A simple answer to end the stalemate: pay the teachers. There's too many figures and theories. Let's put them aside. That's Nixon from Kindaruma. And I think that's really his view. And then there was someone else here saying, this is Wanjala from Muranga saying, once again to Baraza, you're on the spotlight today. Here are the facts. SRC advises the government. It regulates salaries of state officers, teachers are civil servants and not state officers. So again, there seems to be a bit of a challenge coming your way over there, just based on what people are saying. So, you know, we're winding up, and this discussion really could take a lot of different channels and views. It's something that we're all really worried about. You've taken your positions, but really, what would you want Kenyans to consider during this time, for you as someone with a background in finance and a parent, and for you really as a parent who is concerned? What is it that you would want Kenyans to consider at this time as we continue to address this issue, maybe starting with you?
Well, first and foremost, my plea to the teachers' union is a call of the strike, so that we give an opportunity to the 12 million people out there who have a right to education. That's my point number one. Number two, the government can definitely initiate discussions on how to implement the pay increase. It may not be done now because already the budgeting process has been done, but this is something that can be done in a phased way so that we have a win-win situation.
Okay, thank you for that. Your views?
Yes, I want to start from where Baraza has ended it, a win-win situation, because that's what this country needs. This journey has been long. The teachers strike for pay increment and all that. I think the point where they've reached, they need to be given something. They've had a very long journey, and at this point, we need the children to go back. But how? First of all, in the earlier press briefing earlier today with the NAT, they said that they are willing and ready to talk. So if the government cannot even afford that 50 to 60, as they say, as Barasa says, is not sustainable. I don't know how unsustainable it is, but then they should come to some agreement. This grandstanding and just thumping will not help us. In fact, our children are really suffering. Right now, I'm here discussing this. I don't know what they are doing back at home. Maybe
there's no one to take care of them.
Yeah, maybe they are watching, maybe they are not. Yes, you are watching. I'm also watching you. Yeah. So, but what is the long-term effect of this? First of all, the candidates. They're not preparing. I know some of them maybe have relaxed because the government has a very strong standpoint. The teachers also the same. No one wants to blink fast. Let them talk. Let them discuss and agree. Even if it is halfway, 50 plus 60 divided by 2. That's a simple mathematics that they can do and agree. And then there's always been this saying that the children or the youth, they are the leaders of tomorrow. Now, who do they emulate? And what are the actions of those people that they emulate? What will happen to them when now they become to that, that position where now they are the leaders of today? Will they emulate what the leaders of the day are doing or not? Let us think about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Like I said, this discussion can go on and will go on as long as the strike goes on. All the best to you and, of course, your children. We do feel for the children, but at the same time, I think, you know, it's very difficult to say this person has the right points and this one doesn't. It's only fair that we just hope and pray that the stalemate comes to an end. So thank you so much for coming and sharing. Sorry? You missed something. You want to say something before we...
Just my parting shot. I'll want, as much as the union is fighting for their members, I think one aspect which is also important, they also advocate for productivity. So that productivity is based on the salary increase in order to safeguard public interest. Because when you look at what is happening, I know we have teachers who are in private schools, and indications are that they're not paid as good or as better as teachers in the public schools. And the performance of private schools is better than performance of public schools. So my challenge to the union leaders, as much as they push for better salaries for their members, they also advocate for improved productivity.
All right, and output. All right, thank you so much. And thank you, of course, for watching Monday Special tonight on a topic that we'll definitely be discussing over the next few days on our different shows. And thank you all for your feedback on SMS and Twitter as well. I'm Janet Bogwandishu. Many thanks for watching and have a good night.